Hi, this is Mike Martin from Casio, and we're broadcasting live here with a Privia PX-560. This is a webinar we're doing tonight, taking your questions live, so we're waiting for a few people to join in to answer your questions about the PX-560. So if you're live on YouTube, you'll find a chat window over to the right-hand side. Ask your questions. I can see the live stream up here, and I'll be happy to answer them. I have a PX-560 here with the latest software, and this instrument's actually completely initialized without any extra stuff loaded in. So anything I do, you'll be able to do, because I don't have anything special loaded in. And again, tonight's webinar will be driven based on your comments. I have some specific things that I think a lot of new users want to learn about assigning controllers, using hex layers and programming them on your own. So I'm going to definitely dive into some of those things. And awesome Wolf Cry, welcome to the live stream. So again, use the chat over there on the right-hand side. Ask your questions. And in a moment here, I'll start diving in. So I think people are just starting to join us. So got a new setup. We're actually we're at Casio America here in Dover, New Jersey, and we are in a room. Well, normally I do these from my office. So one of my goals, and one of the reasons we haven't been doing these as often as we want, is I kind of have to tear apart my whole office to do these. So I've been trying to set up sort of a permanent corner to be able to just go in, plug in the computer, and do these. So trying out a new room. This is the room of many keyboards here at Casio. So excellent. I see some questions already. I see. So Brad is asking a question about the metronome and if it could be panned using the mixer. No, it could not. But an alternative that you could use, Brad, is in the mixer. You could edit one of the basic rhythms that are built in, and then using the mixer. If I go to the main menu here and select mixer, you could then pan that, like a drum. There's certainly a simple drum track that you could find that would give you a basic click and pan that to one side. The disadvantage of doing that is you would have to disable your system effects. So if you have an effect like reverb, that's going to go out both channels. So if you've got a drum part or a click of some kind going out, the right output, if there's reverb on, you're going to hear it on the left. So not entirely designed for that sort of thing. So also looks like we have another question. If you can execute 4 hex layer sounds at once, yes. So I'm going to definitely dive into that in a moment. So. Also, let me know on the chat window if you can hear me and see me okay, and if all is well. I could not locate the headset microphone tonight, so hopefully you can hear my voice okay on this lavalier. So let's dive into the PX-560. Answer some questions that I was just getting on. In fact, someone was just Facebook messaging me, and I want to remind everybody. I try to be as available as I can. We have CasioMusicForums.com. We also have a users group for the PX5S and PX560. If you ask your questions there, everybody gets to learn something, and you'll probably get a faster answer than messaging me. And I frankly can't handle the number of direct questions. So ask them on over on the forum, and I will be. If you don't get an answer from me right away, you'll get an answer from somebody, I'm certain, pretty quick. So great to see Pete and Raphael and a whole bunch of other people. This is fantastic. All right, so diving into the PX560, I'm going to address a couple of the questions that come up all the time. First is, how is this instrument different than the PX560 or than the PX5S, excuse me? And it's quite a bit different. It shares a lot of the core sounds, but the ways you can combine them and use them are different. And there's also some differences in the physical controls as well. So for example, your acoustic pianos, the great acoustic piano sounds that Casio has in our Privias, these are the same in both the 5S and the 560. So same acoustic piano sounds, same core electric piano sounds. And one big difference, of course, is this great touch screen, of course. So navigating things on the 560 is a lot different. So the 560 has individual tones that we can access via this touch screen. We have categories across the top of the screen, so I could go into electric pianos, grab a clavinet. The 5S is organized in a completely different manner, and in fact it's always set up in what we call stage settings. Some companies call these performances or setups. So it's always in a configuration that could be 1 or up to 4 sounds at once and zoned across the keyboard in a lot of different ways. So finding your individual sounds, getting around the 560 is very easy. In fact, if you want to layer a sound, real common request, just touch the red icon here next to a sound name actually enables that zone. So by touching the little icon here next to stereo strings, we now have our piano and strings layered together. Now, what you also see here on the bottom is that my bass sound, the on switch was turned on for that part, but we don't hear the lower 2 sounds until we enable this split button. And so now we have our bass in our left hand, piano and strings in our right. So creating registrations or creating splits and layers on the fly is very, very easy on the PX-560, while on the PX-5S, that's something that you're going to want to prepare in advance. So if you're trying to decide between the two instruments, you got to think about your workflow and which how much you need to adjust things on the fly. Are you working with a singer and you don't know what key you're going to be in? Well, the PX-560 has transpose buttons right here on the front panel, and you can quickly get to those. And that would be a couple steps on the PX-5S. So again, depending on your needs, one instrument or the other might suit your needs. Another big difference between the two instruments is speakers. The PX-560 here does have built-in speakers. You will not find those on the 5S, so you're going to have to hook it up something to hear on the PX-5S. The speakers on the PX-560, of course, they're not going to carry a large room, but perfect for practice or a small rehearsal in your bedroom, wherever you happen to be. The speakers sound great. So addressing some of the quick questions that are coming up. Do both keyboards also have the same string sounds? Actually, that's one of the differences between the two products, is there are new stereo strings on the 560. These were developed after the 5S was introduced, and so the strings are different on the 560. Now, that being said, there are many, many sounds you can download from CasioMusicForums.com and load into your PX-5S. And in the Casio section, you'll find some string sounds that I did that I think get very, very close to these stereo ones on the 560. So, Pete's also asking a question, how do you change the split point? So, it doesn't get any faster than again, here on the PX-560 to split and layer. So again, I can turn on my different parts. If I hit split, now I've got my bass down here in the left hand. So at the bottom of the screen, it says split point. And right now it says F#3, which is this key just below middle C. If I touch the screen where it says split point and then choose a key, let's say I'll choose this C, that's now where my upper part starts. And now my bass will be just below that. So extremely fast to change your split point. Again, touch the screen, choose your key, and go. Again, fast transpose, fast split and layer, fast split points, and if you need to recall this, just hit the store button on the right-hand side of the keyboard, and choose your registration number, and you can instantly recall that. So I distorted in location 1-4. So very fast to get back to that type of configuration. So if, for example, if I were to store just my piano on registration 1, and that split with strings is on registration 4, and you see it's just instantaneous. Instantaneous to switch back and forth between those. So taking a look at some of the other questions. Raphael, I'm not sure what you're asking. So I'm just reading through these questions. Bear with me for just a moment. Yeah, the last sound doesn't. You can switch between sounds pretty much seamlessly, although it does depend on the type of sound that you're using. So if we're using what Casio calls a melody tone, so for example, all the sounds in these first categories, your pianos, electric pianos, organs, guitars, strings, brass, everything on this list until you get to HexLayer. If you're using HexLayer sounds, there could be some slight change or interruption in sound. The only other change you might hear is the change in the effects. So if I were to switch from something like this acoustic piano to something that has an effect on it, obviously we're hearing that effect kick in on that part. So if it's another effect such as a distortion or something like that, there could be a change in sound. But the ability to switch sounds this quickly is amazing. Someone's asking, is the same touchscreen as the MZX500? Yeah, it's physically identical. The layout is a little bit different. So you'll find there are some differences in the menu system. Obviously, the MZX500 is our flagship arranger keyboard, and it's a little different in that regard, as it's got some extensive arranger features. So obviously, and some other physical features like pads. So the screen is different to address those things. So excellent. I really appreciate you guys keeping the questions coming. So let's get to some of the other common questions on how to use the PX-560. One other difference between the PX-560 and the 5S is the physical controls. So we've got speakers on this model, so we don't have the sliders, but we do have 3 knobs here on the front panel. And by default, if we go to the main screen, you can see that by default, these knobs default to EQ. We've got EQ, low, medium, and high. And if you wanted to change the function of one of these knobs, all you do is touch that parameter on the screen, and you're taken to a screen where you can now scroll through hundreds of different parameters that you can assign. So for example, maybe I needed quick access to my reverb amount. So now knob 1 is my reverb mix. So other examples, again, I could go to knob 2, go in here and change that to my delay time. And if I want to further adjust those effects, my system effects, if I go to the main menu, choose effect, here's where I'll find my system effects, my system reverb, system chorus, system delay, and there's some great options in here. So I like some of the longer effects, and I can turn up the volume of these and adjust my delay time, things like that. You will find in here tempo sync. That's what I was looking for. So you can actually, based on your tempo of the rhythm that's going on, you can set the delay time to match. And there's also a tap tempo button over here on the right-hand side of the keyboard, and that will help you set those delay times. So again, really fast to set these knobs to reverbs, delays, and other parameters. So let's get into another difference in the instruments, and that would be the fact that the PX-560 does have an expression pedal input. So I am using an M Audio expression pedal. Casio does not manufacture expression pedals, but we work with a variety of different ones. And as you can hear, I'm controlling the volume of the strings with the expression pedal. So how did I do that? So let's go back to the main menu here, go to the controllers section, and here you will find the first thing that we need to do is choose pedal type. So you have to tell the PX-560 that you have an expression pedal rather than a foot switch connected. The next thing you need to do, and you really only need to do this once if you've bought a new pedal, is on the main system settings you will find an expression pedal calibration tool. And basically it says move the pedal to its highest position, press OK, move it to its lowest position and press OK, and now your pedal is calibrated to work with the 560. So once you do that, then you can choose what that pedal is going to do, and currently under pedal edit I have it set to volume. And one great thing about the way this works is I can choose the minimum and maximum range. Maybe I don't want the strings to go all the way up to 127. Maybe I still want them to sit behind the piano in volume, so I can set my maximum value here as 100. And maybe I never want them to get completely quiet, so I could set it maybe at a level of 30 or 40, give it a try, turn it down. So musically, you can program the range that's happening here that'll best suit what you're trying to do. So you can assign the range. Another thing you could do, for example, is you'll see that at the top there's a 1 and a 2. So the pedal can actually be assigned to do two things simultaneously, and that's the same goes for the knobs or the modulation wheel. So another fun thing we could do, I could go in and assign the second target to be something interesting. Let's try it, and I've never done this before. Let's try it for filter cutoff. So what I'm going to do, let's just see what happens here. So what this should do, in fact, I'm going to go back into pedal edit. I can also choose which of my parts this target is working for. So cool thing is, I could, with these layer enable switches, I could turn down zone 1, zone 2, or zone 3 while turning up another one. So because I can independently assign targets 1 and 2, that gives me a lot of flexibility to do different things. So what I did with this filter parameter is I turned off my piano part. I don't want the filter control to control the piano part, but what's going to happen now is the strings are actually getting a little brighter as I open the pedal, in addition to a little louder. So just some nice, fun, expressive things that you could do. You'd probably hear that a little bit more if I chose a synth sound for that upper part, so let's do that. Let's go choose a synth pad of some sort here. I'm going to the HexLayer section. I'll just grab this Silky Smooth. So we can hear that the filter's all the way open. So I probably need to adjust the range a little bit to work well with what I'm trying to do. So I'm going to go into lower my minimum value here, like so. So not only is the filter opening and closing, but the volume is changing. So an incredible flexibility with controller assignments. I'm taking a quick look at the questions to see if you guys are following along with me. So it looks like, can I use the expression with pedal with the fine? Yep, absolutely. So just as I was just doing to answer your question, Mark, can the expression pedal be used to control individual layers? Yes. I can choose it I can allow it to do two different things simultaneously and choose which parts upper 1, upper 2, lower 1, lower 2, which parts those are working with. So, so it gets you some amazing flexibility. In fact, that's actually something that was added to the 560 that the PX-5S cannot do. A little more sophisticated as far as being able to blend things with a pedal that way. Not that possible to, or not that easy, I should say, to fade one thing out and fade one thing in on the 5S. So jump around a little bit. So next question, Raphael's asking if you could use wave files in a HexLayer sound. No, I'm sorry, that's not possible. You can't load samples into the PX-560. The samples that are in it are the samples that that you have, and that being said, there's a lot of flexibility. Be surprised, you're looking to create like a thunder type sound. You might be able to create something like that using the HexLayer sound engine, which I'm going to dive into in a few minutes, because that's really the great thing about this instrument and the PX-5S is that these aren't your standard digital pianos. They are extremely powerful synthesizers, and that's why we're doing tonight's clinic, because there's so much under the hood that you can get in and change that certainly previous Casio instruments did not offer that type of flexibility. And Tony's asking, well, how many layers can you do? So, complicated question. Not really, Tony. Actually, so on the surface, on this screen here, I've got 4 parts. 2 upper and 2 lower. So I could have 2 sounds in my left hand, 2 sounds in my right hand. So that's 2 layered in each half of the keyboard. That being said, we do have this technology, and let's dive into a little bit, called a HexLayer. So a HexLayer is a single sound that has up to 6 layers. So let's take a look at an example of that and try and give you, let's see if I can find a real good example that would allow us to hear what's going on in a HexLayer. Well, the orchestral ones are always good, so maybe I'll come back to that. There we go. I always like this one. So many to choose from. So many great pads. So lots of HexLayer sounds. All right, so I'm going to start with the orchestral one because it's the easiest one to sort of demonstrate. So a single HexLayer patch can be up to 6 layers. So let's take a look at what that means. So if I go to the tone screen here, I now get, and I press the tone button to the right of the display, we now get an edit button on the screen. And if we go into layer edit, you will now see layers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 across the screen. So strings, and orchestral pad, Glock, brass section, timpani. So in this example, I've got a little oboe, glockenspiel. So this is one patch. I've got strings, that English horn, or another sort of string pad to thicken things up. There's the Glock. I have a brass section. Notice we're not hearing the brass section. We'll come back, and also timpani. So not only can we stack 6 different parts across the keyboard, but you have individual key range, so the range on the keyboard, like the octave on the keyboard that it's working, as well as velocity range. So you can see here with this brass part on layer 5, it doesn't begin sounding till I trigger a velocity of at least 80 up to 127. So same with my timpani. Timpani is on layer 6, but my timpani only works from the C3 key down to the bottom of the keyboard. at a higher velocity. I have to 89. So, and personally, I might like that a little bit higher. So you really have to. So that is one sound. So the amazing thing is, and I could save this edit that I made, I could call it something else, rename it, add a number 2 on the end of this, store it as my own user sound. So now that change I've made is permanently stored in the keyboard. So that is just one part. I could now layer this orchestral part with another orchestral HexLayer sound and have an even larger combination. So let's layer it with this one, which I think has some. I think I still have that volume pedal assigned to that other part. So extremely flexible to do all kinds of splitting and layering. Okay, I did take that off. So let's hear that part second. So the same way, we could edit that sound, put it in a different layer or something like that, and create a different orchestral combination, or choose pipe organs to go behind my orchestra. And again, hit the store button, choose a registration number, and store that. So really fast to create a combination and come back and get to it. So creating hex layers yourself, if you've never done it, can be, it's not daunting at all. Just use your imagination a little bit. I would also suggest, taking a look at some of the factory presets and take a look at the layers like we just did, and create your own. But just for the sake of it, let's create one from scratch, and I'll show you how easy it is. So I've selected one of the user presets that has nothing in it. We're just hearing a single layer with a sine wave. And press the tone button. We see this edit button now. And now we can go into layer edit and build our 6-layer patch. Okay. So PX-560 has a huge number of, somebody was asking earlier, you needed thunder. There's a lot of things that come left over from the old, the old GM sound set, and be surprised if there wasn't something like the ocean sound or something like that you couldn't work into a thunder type sound. So you see this list. There's just 66 pages of waveforms to choose from. It's really amazing. And when when I choose a particular layer, let's choose a string. So that's 1/2 of my string patch. In fact, if we really want to hear this the right way, I'm now going to go to layer 2. Let's see, that was on page 21 of 66, layer 251. So now I'm going to go to layer 2, turn it on, and go to the same spot. You can just hold down the button here. You don't have to, or hold down the screen, I should say. You don't have to press the screen a bunch of times to get to that page. So I just picked 2 string layers, and I can scroll down here, go to their amp section, and pan them left and right. And now I've got stereo strings on layers 1 and 2. So I could go now to layer 3, and again, use my imagination and go in and turn that layer on and choose from any of the waveforms that are built in. And again, it could be brass, it could be percussion, could be anything. And what's great about this is they automatically work. I mean, if I were to pick a guitar sound, let's go all the way early into this list and find a guitar sound to layer with the strings here. I'm getting close. So many, so many, so many. There's all the guitar nuances and noises. These are all the noises. So any waveform you choose is automatically going to choose sort of a preset envelope and filter settings, so it automatically works in this HexLayer sound. If you wanted to override that, there's a way to do that, which I'll get to in a moment. It's in system settings. There's something called initialize wave. So if initialize wave is turned on, as soon as you choose one of these waveforms, it's just set up to work. So again, there's lots of different all kinds of different combinations. So even if I were to choose electric piano waveform or anything else, it just works. So again, you don't have to be a rocket scientist and to program hex layers. Just use your imagination, get in here and find some things that you think might sound good together. Pizzicato strings. So that works. Or you could create a nice combination of using your solo strings along with your ensemble strings and build yourself a nice ensemble that way, or harp. So some really, really cool stuff. Another great thing about HexLayer programming is you could get in here. If notice I can program individual layers by selecting them. There's also a parameter here where I can choose all at once. And so if I choose all at once, now I could get in here and I mean, here's a somewhat silly thing to do, but it's fun. So let's do it. Is I'm going to grab 6 of exactly the same waveforms. So I'm going to grab 6 sawtooths. There we go. And I'm going to turn down the volume here a little bit. And so, yeah, if you take a look, all 6 layers now have different sawtooths. And I'm going to go through and pan these around a little bit. So I'm going to pan 1 and 2 really hard left and right. 3 and 4, I'm going to pan just a little bit each way. 5 and 6, just ever so slightly. I'm also going to get in and turn down the velocity sensitivity, make it more like analog synth. So, so where this is going to get fun, I have to go back one page, is we will find detuning. So. So that detuning parameter is now shifting all 6 of those layers around. So you can create some really fat synth sounds very quickly just by grabbing some waveforms, detuning them, some fun things like that. And again, if you wanted some real-time control over this stuff, again, now we could go in and start using the knobs. I could assign a knob here to filter cutoff as an example, and another knob to maybe my attack time. It takes a little time to get used to where some of these parameters are. We do follow MIDI standards for these things, so. And I could also set a knob to be my release time. And so real quick, I could take that synth sound. Apologize, we're getting a little loud here, but and boom, we've got an awesome synth sound. So again, we could store that as a registration, just like we've been doing. So really amazing. The hex layers that are in here are fantastic. Just to go through a few of them and what we were maximum. Here's a great one. This is so if we were to take apart this sound again, press the tone button and you'll see edit. Now we can go in and look at the layers, and all 6 layers are being used here. So you want to figure out how it's done. Actually, only 5 of 6. I'll turn the 6th one on. I know what it is, but go in and turn them all off, and then start turning them back on one at a time. So we've got like a synth string layer here on part 1. Part 2 is a vocal synthy thing. Part 3 is another. We have 256 notes of polyphony here too, so we can, quickly, and we're not going to. Polyphony isn't a concern, but even with these large sounds. So that's cool. Layers 3 and 4 together give you some real nice space. And then 5 is a bell. Layer 6 is fun. Layer 6 was turned off by default, so this is something you might want to get in and change. Layer 6 is on the key off. And let's go in and turn that up a little bit louder. So when everything's turned on, it's a really awesome experience. I probably wouldn't want that 6th layer quite that loud. So if we use some of these key off layers, a variety of different ways in the instrument. Sometimes we use them for our electric piano sounds. So again, in addition to what you'll find in the preset electric piano section, you'll find more electric pianos in hex layers, and they're here because we've got more control to adjust them and tweak them. So Larry's Rhodes, this particular preset was made at Larry Dunn's home. This is Larry Dunn from Earth, Wind & Fire, and I was right next to his Rhodes, and we programmed this sound. He's talked about it a few times. It didn't actually have distortion on it at the time, so every time he calls it up, he's like, he turns down that distortion, but So it's also, this sound is also really close for that Riders on the Storm type of sound. So where I was going is, on this particular sound, if you were to go in and look at the layers, I'm pretty sure it's layer 5. Yep. It's layer 5 is triggered on a key off. And if I were to turn it up so we can hear it, it's almost the sound of the key going back into position and brushing that tine and muting it just a little bit. So those kinds of mechanical noises that you always hear with the real thing, and we're able to simulate that here on the PX-560. So looking for your questions. I'm looking at the chat. Very happy to take some more questions. Whoa, that sound, absolutely. Thank you, Melanie. I appreciate that. Wolf Cry, timpani. Yeah, timpani could absolutely be used for thunder. And Mike, can you use 4 hex layers in the upper and lowers? Yeah, so again, another difference between the two instruments, PX-5S and 560, is that all 4 of the uppers, upper, lower sections could all be hex layers on this instrument. So, I could pick, doesn't matter. Any 4 sounds I can choose from the hex layer category. And the PX-5S had some limitations in that regard, but not the case with the PX-560. I can go in and use any 4 sounds that I want in those uppers and lowers, and then store them. So hopefully that answers your question. Samuel's asking, por favor, clear tutorials in Espanol. Hopefully our partners at Casio Mexico and Casio Europe will be doing some, and we will be sharing those, of course, on our YouTube channels. And Blaine is asking, again, for some more videos about the MZX500. Yeah, Blaine, if you missed the beginning of the video, we've had a little bit of a hiatus of doing some of these live videos, and we did one last week, we did one this week, and we're really I guess ramping up the frequency of those. So expect a MZX500 video in the near future. So get your questions ready, and I'll do my best to answer those for you. So I've addressed some of the controller assignments, a little bit about hex layers. So many wonderful things that you can do with these, and again, some beautiful sounds. So let's dive into a couple other things. Let's go back to some of the preset tone. So let's go back to one of the stock electric pianos, like a Wurlitzer. All right, so. And Blaine, everything I've been doing here on the PX-560 as far as hex layer editing, controller editing, everything applies to the MZX500. The operating of everything you've seen here is almost identical, and there's just actually even some more flexibility on that product. In fact, one of the questions that came up earlier is, could you add WAV files to the PX-560 for, in this case, someone was asking for a sound effect like thunder. You can't on the PX-560, but that's actually something you can do on the MZX500. You have the ability to load samples. So I was back at the primary electric piano section. I grabbed this Wurlitzer sound, and I just wanted to dive in and show you some of the other editing things that are available, specifically when it comes to effects and how you can use them. So there are a variety of DSP effects available on the PX-560. Things like panners. So if you want the electric piano to pan left and right, and once we've chosen that, we can get in and change its depth, change its. So that's the type of tremolo you would typically hear on a Rhodes, panning hard left and right. There's some other great effects, of course, your phasers, your flangers, and loads of parameters in here that you can get in and adjust. Turn up the resonance. And again, some simple changes that you can make, and then you could go back and write this as your own sound, give it a unique name. But lots of different effects to choose from. Some other ones that I like on the next page is where it really gets fun with the distortions. Auto wahs. That one takes a little bit of tweaking to lower. So a little bit of tweaking as far as finding the range of level to make it really squeak and squeal the way you want. So auto wahs, distortions, pitch shifters, multi-chorus is gorgeous. There's a preset actually on the, that's very much like, there's a Led Zeppelin song called No Quarter, I believe. That almost nails it perfectly. So an additional delay effect, rotary speaker effects. There's a question that comes up all the time, is rotary speakers and organs. So let's get in and address that. So PX-560 has a variety of organ sounds. In fact, there's 9 pages of them here. You'll find traditional like electric organs or drawbar organ type simulations in here, rock organs, you see them all, distorted organs, rotary organs, and then you get into pipe organs and other things like that. So we hear with this particular organ sound that there is a rotary speaker effect, but by default we don't have real-time control over that rotary speaker effect. So we need to go in and assign a controller to do that. So there's a variety of different ways to do it. You could use the mod wheel. So that's what a lot of people like to do. So let's take a look at how to assign this rotary speaker effect to the mod wheel. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm actually going to edit the effect itself. Oops. Go to Effect. And personally, I like the sound of the distorted rotary a little bit better than the default rotary. I think our speaker emulations are quite good. And now that we're here, let's set our speeds the way that we want, like our slow rate versus our fast rate, and let's just check and see how that sounds. And that's pretty good. So some simple changes. We might want to, turn up the overdrive a little bit, which means we'll turn down the volume. Okay, so I've got the rotary sounding the way I want, but now I want to use the modulation wheel to control that in real time. So first let's write this organ sound with the changes I've made. So choose rename, and you can get in and put your initials in here. Alright, so I just called that drawbar M for me. And now I'm going to go to the main menu, go to my controllers page, and from the list choose my modulation wheel. And instead of doing modulation, if I scroll to the bottom of this list, we're actually going to see all of the DSP parameters here. So speed is the one that I'm looking for. So that's how you'd go about it, and then once you've done this, you need to store this as a registration. It's registrations that determine what the physical knobs and wheels and pedals do. So again, press the store button, and in fact, when you're on the main screen, you can choose which registration bank you're working with. So I could store this as registration 2-1. And now I can recall that instantly. So another great thing about the 560 is that there's always a grand piano button here on the front panel. It's sort of like a reset button. So I can go again. I can always get back to piano in a flash if I need to, and then I can go back to that organ patch. So it takes a little bit of organization to organize your registrations. You got to think ahead a little bit, but you've got 96 of them to work with. So taking a look at the questions, worship musicians use volume expression for each layers. How's it done on the 560? So yeah, great question. Again, a variety of ways to do it. So when we were taking a look earlier, and let's just create a simple combination. I'm going to take my acoustic piano, oops, not Midnight Sun. I'm wanted that maximum patch I was using earlier. Everything's in a slightly different order than I'm used to on the 5S, so sometimes I've got the screen brightness turned down so I can see it, or so you can see it on the camera, I should say, but it's a little difficult for me to see here. So there's maximum 96. So to answer your question, Wolfcry, there's a variety of ways that I could control the layered patch here. Again, if I go back to that controller's view, I could use my expression pedal and use it to control just, and again, I can choose my parts just to control that upper pad with all of its components. Okay, so that's one option. I could also, instead of controlling the whole thing, I could actually go in here and choose individual layers of this patch. Okay, so you can see we've got layer volumes 1 through 6, as well as other things like panning and other things. So I could individually control 2 of those layers at once. So for example, if I wanted to bring in and out the bell, as an example, and that's not working exactly, layer 5 volume, exactly the way I had expected. So let me see what I'm doing wrong. I've got upper 2 maximum. Let's double check what I'm doing here. Layer 5 volume. Well, I might have found a bug in 140, and this is this is how we get new features added, is when we find ones that aren't working properly. So what I should be able to do is individually control these layers with my expression pedal, and I'm not hearing it work that way. So I apologize for that, but I'm not certain what is wrong. Perhaps I'm doing something wrong, but I don't think I am. So that's how I would do it. Again, the 5S for a worship musician is sometimes a little bit more flexible because of the 6 sliders and the variety of real-time controls. Let's just try something real quick here. I'm going to reverse these. And that was number 93. So I'm putting the pad there and the piano on part 1. Okay. So it is working on upper 1, but it isn't working on upper 2. So I need to I'll double check after the webinar whether I've messed something up here. So that's interesting. Yeah, my switches here for layer volume aren't quite working properly. So in theory, that's how you would do it, Wolfcry. Of course, you could also use your knobs 1, 2, 3 here on the front panel and assign those to upper and lower volume parts. That's another way you could do it. And one great thing about, again, these knobs is I could turn one part down while turning one part up. So Raphael has a question, a tricky. If my HexLayer has a layer C1 to C7, and I put it at low 1 and split it at C4, that means D4 it will sound just like the upper part. Yep, you could do that. That is correct. Blaine, I would like to see a feature that lets you convert MIDI files to rhythm patterns automatically. Yes, so would I. That would be a great feature. You know, the 560 does have rhythms, but it isn't a full-fledged arranger like some of our other products like the MZX. In fact, what you're asking is something that our MZX series can actually do. You can take any MIDI file and create a rhythm from that. The 560 isn't quite as sophisticated in that regard. You do have the ability to edit rhythms by changing parts and sounds and storing those, but you can't really make them from scratch like you can on our arrangers. So that feature set is reserved for our arranger keyboards. Sorry, Blaine. Maybe, fingers crossed, we'll get that addressed here. So we're approaching almost 1 hour in. Wow, we got 33 people live. Please, I've got about maybe 5 or 10 more minutes. If you guys have some questions, keep asking, and I will do my best to address those. Next question is, can we use a foot pedal to walk through registrations? No, not on the 560. That's actually something you'd find on the 5S. But the 560, everything's done registration-wise from the front panel here. So, great question. Keep them coming. So while you're doing that, I will explore some other hex layers that we have here. There's a few that I haven't seen in a while. Ragtimer. So again, all kinds of things. If this is, this hex layer section is such a magical part of the PX-560. So get in and explore some great guitars. So again, if you're wondering how a sound like this was done, go in, press the tone button, then the edit button, and you can get in and see some of the tricks that I used for this particular sound. And so there's a sound in here that gives us that upper harmonic that we only hear when we play. That's that sine wave here on layer 4, only when we play a key really hard. So some fun presets in the hex layer section. Rock guitar bass. Some fun sounds. Octave strings. Silky Smooth is one of my favorites. So again, hex layer editing, there's so much to explore. I like to get in and, edit. We do also have portamento on the 560. Again, great way to get some nice animation to your sounds with portamento, which is what that next sound was supposed to do. Mix, sax, brass, some great brass saxophone combination. Some leads in here too. Deckard's lead. Movie's coming out October 6th. So here's an example. Let's take this lead in our upper part, go to our lower part and turn on split and choose a different hex layer. Sorry, I'm geeking out. So I have to experiment a little bit with the volume, but you can create some really awesome and again, it's still a piano on top of everything else. So add a piano in there. So I'd like a lot of reverb on my piano part, so we could go into actually the mixer first. Go into my piano part, turn up the reverb send for it. So when you're in the mixer, you only hear the part that you have selected. And then when you exit out, then you can hear the whole mix. So so I am geeking out a little bit in Blade Runner. So again, the movie comes out next week. So loving your 560. Is there a way to make a sound monophonic? No, I'm sorry, Gabriel. The tech actually doesn't exist on this engine. This engine was originally created, to do, pianos, and they found, it was such a powerful engine that it could be used to do a variety of things, but to do like legato monophonic sounds, the engine isn't built to do that real nicely. So that is something that with the new technology that was added to our MZX series, and it's also something you can still find on my favorite instrument in the whole world, the XWP1. And so what a great combination to have with your 560 is an XW. So great questions. So Ron, your question, please, when you do tutorials on the MZX 500. So I've said this a few times in the webinar tonight. Everything I've done tonight applies to the MZX 500. And so all of the layer programming, all of the controller programming, absolutely everything I've done in this 1-hour seminar works exactly the same on the MZX 500. So hopefully you learned some things from this. Rewind and watch the video, and again, there will also be an MZX 500 webinar in the future as well. So hang in there, Ron. We'll do it. I've got some homework to do on the MZX 500 myself, but I'm also traveling the next 3 weeks, including a trip to Japan. So fingers crossed, in October, I will get to an MZX 500 webinar. Stay tuned to the Casio Music Gear Facebook page for alerts, or subscribe to this YouTube channel so when we create an event, you'll know about it. Blaine's asking, will there ever be an upgrade to the XW series? I don't know. In that, if I did know, I can't tell you. I'll say this. The XW is still, I just said a minute ago, it's one of my favorite instruments. It is just as wonderful an instrument as it was the day it was released, and they're still available. So get a hold of one. It's a heavenly monophonic keyboard, among other things. In fact, there are some things actually in the HexLayer engine on the XW that weren't brought over to these other instruments. So it has a unique character and quality to it that I think, in addition to the fact that it's based on different tech, and it fits well in the mix with other instruments. So side by side, the XW series blends extremely well with the PX-5S and the PX-560 and the MZX, which have a different sound set and sound engine. So pick yourself up an XWP1. You won't regret it. It's a great 61 key keyboard, also a great controller keyboard as well. But one of the things I always say about it is pick any one thing that keyboard does, and it's worth $500. So So I unfortunately do have to wrap up. I appreciate everybody that's attended tonight's webinar. If you have feedback, please leave comments here on this live stream. Visit the Casio Music forums.com where you can download sounds for the 560 and as well as other products. Go to our Facebook pages, the PX5S and PX560 Facebook page. There's over 3,000 users there where you can ask your questions about these products to get some answers really quick from people all over the world that are just as passionate about this instrument as me. So with that, my name is Mike Martin. I appreciate everybody, and we will see you again very soon on our next webinar. Take care.